The cold December daylight pressed down on the city like a quiet weight, the kind that made even busy streets feel lonely, when Elias Crown stood outside a glittering office tower on Christmas Eve, staring at nothing. Snow had not yet fallen, but the air carried its promise, sharp and biting, and the glass walls around him reflected a man who looked powerful from a distance and completely broken up close. To the world, Elias was a celebrated CEO, a name on magazines, a man who had everything. But in that moment under the pale winter sun, with carols drifting faintly from a nearby market and office workers rushing home to families, he was simply someone who had nowhere to go and no one waiting for him. If you believe that kindness and second chances can change lives, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel **Grandma's Book **, because stories like this exist to remind us why compassion still matters. Elias had chosen to stand outside instead of going back up to his office because the silence inside was unbearable. The company party had ended early for him. The smiles felt fake, the congratulations hollow. That morning, he had signed final papers confirming a divorce that had dragged on for years, ending with empty apartments and scheduled holidays he never filled. His success had cost him time, warmth, and connection, and Christmas Eve only magnified the loss. The daytime sky was a dull silver, and people passed him carrying wrapped boxes, laughing into their scarves, reminding him of everything he had postponed for later and somehow lost forever. Across the wide plaza, near a bench dusted with frost, a young woman stood with a little girl bundled in a red coat. The woman's hands were rough, her posture tired, but she smiled as she adjusted the child's mittens, pointing at decorations strung between lampposts. They were waiting for a bus, their shoes worn thin, but there was a warmth around them that Elias noticed without understanding why. The little girl watched the world with open curiosity, her eyes bright despite the cold, noticing things adults rushed past. When she looked at Elias, her gaze lingered, as if she could see the heaviness pressing on him. Time slowed as Elias leaned against the stone wall, the sound of traffic fading beneath the hum in his ears. He felt foolish standing there, an accomplished man undone by a holiday afternoon. His phone buzzed with unread messages, board reminders, and holiday greetings he couldn't bring himself to open. He wondered when life had narrowed into transactions and deadlines, when love had become something to reschedule. He had built empires, but never learned how to sit at a table and simply belong. The little girl slipped free of her mother's grip and walked closer, her boots crunching softly on the frozen ground. She stopped a few steps from Elias, studying him the way children do, without judgment, only curiosity. Her mother hurried after her, apologizing with tired eyes, but the child lifted her chin and smiled in a way that seemed to light the gray afternoon. She spoke words that cut straight through Elias's defenses, offering something simple and profound, suggesting that sadness did not have to be carried alone, that warmth could be shared even by those who had little. Those words broke something open in Elias. He felt his throat tighten, his eyes sting, and for the first time in years, he did not fight it. He knelt there on the cold stone, humbled not by failure but by unexpected grace. The mother, whose name was Mara, explained their situation with quiet dignity. She worked mornings at a bakery and afternoons cleaning offices, raising her daughter Leela alone since her husband passed away. Christmas was modest for them, but they had each other, and that was enough. Elias listened, truly listened, feeling a strange sense of peace settle over him. What followed was not a miracle in the way movies show it, but something gentler and more real. Elias offered them warmth inside a nearby cafe, a simple invitation that felt like a bridge between worlds. Over hot chocolate and bread still warm from the oven, the afternoon sunlight softened through the windows. Leela laughed easily, telling stories with her hands, while Mara spoke about small dreams she held onto despite exhaustion. Elias found himself sharing parts of his life he rarely acknowledged, admitting loneliness without shame. The city outside continued its rush, but inside that small space, time felt kind. As daylight slowly faded toward evening, Elias made a decision that surprised even him. He realized that success meant nothing if it ended in isolation, and that generosity did not require grand gestures, only presence and intention. He offered Mara steady work at his company's community outreach program, not as charity, but as respect for her resilience. He promised himself to rebuild a life that included people, not just achievements. When they finally parted ways, standing again in the cold daylight that had begun to glow gold, Elias felt lighter than he had in years. If this story is touching your heart, please take a moment to engage with this video, because your support helps keep stories of hope and humanity alive for others who may need them today. Before this story ends, leave a comment sharing a moment when a small act of kindness changed your life or restored your faith in people. As Elias watched Mara and Leela disappear into the crowd, hand in hand, he understood that Christmas had arrived for him not through gifts or celebrations, but through a child's simple belief that no one should be alone. The city lights flickered on as evening approached, and though the air remained cold, his heart was finally warm. That Christmas Eve daytime, outside a towering office building, a little girl reminded a powerful man of what truly mattered, and he carried that lesson forward, determined never to forget that sometimes the greatest wealth is being invited into someone else's warmth, even if only for a moment.